Hi there, I'm Timothy Linsdau, video producer, Christian. Also putting on my science cap today. I've been reading articles about terrestrial dinosaurs turning up in deep in ocean sediments and long distances from the shore. Confuses some scientists. And if you would like and comment my video and subscribe to support my channel and talk about science items. Some of these articles I came across, one of them is they're finding dinosaur fossils deep in sediments in the ocean. Apparently some powerful something swept these land dwellers out to sea, such as giant tsunamis. And others are not sure. So what's going on? Well, in Norway, there's a lot of oil and gas exploration around their country, and they've discovered sedimentary deposits that are massive, so far offshore that there's not a good explanation for it. Marine rock exposures have also revealed numerous land fossils washed out to great distances off the shore. Drilling the coast of Norway has even pulled up a core containing dinosaur bone. And all of these discoveries are baffling to some, and others think it has to do with a worldwide flood. Some mystery of this North Sea dinosaur near Norway has resulted in cores containing bone fragments from marine reptiles such as plesiosaurs, ichthyosaurs. Now these are expected to be there, very large marine type dinosaurs, if you will. So you can expect to find those. But to find dinosaur bones 1.5 miles deep and maybe 70 miles offshore, what could explain that occurrence? They also discovered it in a kind of a reddish brown mudstone that, like I said, was 1.5 miles deep. Pretty amazing. There are other evidences of a lot of plant life and root examples that are also buried in this area, which adds more confusion because it's so far offshore and so deep. Now, there's other bone tissue, and they've pretty much eliminated birds and other mammals in their test to prove that they got a slice of a dinosaur bone out that distance, and it seems to be a plateosaur, which is like Tyrannosaurus Rex, got big hind legs and small little forelegs, but apparently footprints they've found in the mud show that this animal could walk on fours. So they're certain that it's a land animal, but still ended up buried deep in the ocean. So some think it's a worldwide flood issue, tsunami-like waves flowing over the continents, scouring them of animals, any other evidences, and burying them in the sea. Now, these tsunami-like waves would be well beyond anything we've seen in our modern era. Not only enormous amounts of water, but a great deal of sediment mixed in that wave. As they make these core drills, they're discovering not only the bones, but the depth of these sediments, like 1.5 miles or more deep, which is pretty wild. There's also another area off the Gulf Coast, Gulf of Mexico, where they found huge layers of sand. Geologists were surprised to find what they call a whopper sand, an enormous petroleum-bearing formation in the Gulf of Mexico. Its deposit sand is about 200 miles offshore And that's a situation that baffles a lot of scientists because most type sediments coming from rivers settle out very quickly. So, and this is not only far offshore, but it's very deep, which means a huge amount of sediment had to be washed off of something. So again, that takes us back to the possibility of huge tsunamis rushing across the continents to create the Whopper sand level of up to 10,000 feet deep, 200 miles offshore. It would have to scour the size of the contiguous United States to create that much sand deposit. So there's evidence of a huge flood. And not only finding animals remains at great depths and far offshore, but these huge sand deposits. Pretty amazing and crazy stuff. Another area that shows a lot of flooding in what they call the Absaroka plain, and that also has that odd name is, I believe, Indian. I should say American Indian, and I lived near that range and country. Just for an interesting note, in 1939, they were talking about an area of Montana, Wyoming, maybe Idaho, and that block there into another state. It would have been the 49th state. But they talked themselves out of it in 1939. Okay, we've talked about the volume of it was pretty crazy. But what else have they seen? There's an animal they call a phytosaur, and it's kind of like a crocodile, but more of a marine type thing, a longer snout, maybe a whipper tail, more of a whip-like tail. But these are definitely animals that could walk on land and would have been terrestrial, like a crocodile. But they're finding them buried in deep sediments, also in ocean sediments far out, and large ones, 13 feet long, showing they're about 8 years old and still growing. So that it's been discovered across Europe, which shows again that there was some kind of flood occurred, but on a far massive scale than being such as a small region, because they're finding it around the world. A massive evidence of a massive transport process, be a high energy flowing water to move sand over 1,000 feet thick, more than 200 miles offshore, or transport a dinosaur over 70 miles out off the nearest coast, is good evidence for tsunami-like flows. To bury something 1.5 miles deep, it'd have to be gigantic, beyond, like I said, what we could imagine. So nothing like that in modern times shows that what we could say would be that huge. So it was the evidence is showing that something big happened. To move enormous amount of sediment, ancient animals, and not only animals, but fauna, flora, excuse my ignorance there, plants, roots, and leaves, and that kind of whatnot, also mixed up in this deep sediment. You wouldn't be finding that growing under the ocean. So anyway, there's a bit of discussion between scientists, some saying that they're a little bit baffled how in the world these crocodile-type creatures or land-dwelling dinosaurs or regular trees and plants being buried deep in sediments far offshore, and not only that, but massive sediment layers forming far offshore and very deep. It's pretty good evidence some big flood action had to occur to make that happen. So those, some of the scientists that agree with the say, biblical type flood. I think it fits their theory quite well that some kind of worldwide flood occurrence created what we see in the ocean now. And others just don't know what it means at all. How in the world did it happen? So, I had a little bit of science for the day and what's being discovered out in the ocean. It might show that there was a massive flood at one time. So, like and comment on this video, subscribe to support this channel. Get out there and look around, study nature, and make it a great day.